Hi guys, so my good friend Andre Walker uploaded a video about how tech companies in the EU will soon be banging on the door to enter the UK post-Brexit. So let's hear what he had to say.
The European Parliament has called for taxes to be hugely raised on tech giants that will drive them out of the EU and into the United Kingdom. Hello everyone, this is Andre Walker. Yes, the good news keeps coming in relation.
That's not news, that's speculation. And this entire video will be speculation because there's no facts behind the idea that these companies are going to immediately shift to the UK. But let's hear what he has to say anyway.
Relation to the European Union, Guy Verhofstadt from the European Parliament, he being the former Prime Minister of Belgium, the not very good looking fella.
Okay, Andre, neither I nor you are Jason Momoa. I know Jason Momoa is quite popular with the ladies at the moment. So neither I nor you are Jason Momoa. And you know the old expression, people who live in glass houses, but I won't go any further. Go ahead.
Has publicly called on the European Commission to put additional taxes onto both tech giants and what he describes as big polluters. Effectively, they want to use the money to rebuild the European Union's economy after lockdown. Now, by the way, I would personally just not have the lockdown, then you wouldn't have to rebuild. But nonetheless...
That's a very interesting theory. What would you do instead of having a lockdown? You know, we've had this pandemic that's been running rampant across the continent, across the world actually, and we've had a lockdown to reduce the numbers. Also in the UK, you had a lockdown to reduce the numbers, and that worked. So why would you not have a lockdown? I would really like to hear Andre's opinion on how to deal with the pandemic by avoiding a lockdown.
Nonetheless, as you know, there are huge numbers of tech giants based in places like Luxembourg and the Irish Republic and, the sort of Googles of this world and, Facebook and people like that. If they are faced with massive tax hikes, then they will be more inclined to move to the United Kingdom, because at the moment there is no benefit to moving to the UK simply because we are still within the European Union, at least for the transition period.
Okay, well, that's a strange position to take. So if the EU increase taxes on these companies, they will move directly to the UK. But you haven't said why. You said, okay, because under the transition period, there's no reason for them to move there. But probably you're going to say that the UK will reduce taxes or something.
Period. But free of the shackles of the European Union, we will be able to cut our taxes and make deals with these tech giants and return London to being the global...
Okay. So there are a lot of things to unpack here. So first of all, he said that the UK will be able to cut its taxes. So these tech companies won't have to pay any taxes or pay very little tax in the UK. But see, there's a very small problem with that point. It says here, and I just did a quick search on Google. There are a number of different articles. There's one from The Guardian. There's also the BBC, The Telegraph, even The Telegraph, a Brexiteer newspaper. It says here, Facebook paid, this is last year, Facebook paid just £28 million tax after a record 1.6 billion revenues in £1 billion revenues in the UK. Okay, so you're talking about cutting taxes so that Facebook will what? Pay less than £28 million? Okay, you could do that. I'd like to see what the advantage of doing that is, but let's continue.
Financial centre that it ought to be. I'm not saying that London is not a financial centre at the moment, but for many decades, in fact many hundreds of years, it was the most important financial market.
Yes, it was. And what caused London to decline as a financial centre? This is blowing my mind. London was the centre of finance, and now it's declining. I wonder what has caused this to decline. Really, could it have been maybe the choice to leave the largest trading bloc in the world? Could that have been the decision? Could that have been the point that forced the decline of the City of London? Could it have actually been you guys that killed off the City of London? I talked about this before. What the European Union did when a no deal was first presented to them during the withdrawal agreement negotiations, they informed member states to prepare for no deal. Now, something else they informed member states to do was they saw, okay, if the UK leaves, then it's not going to be possible for us to continue our relationship with the City of London to the same extent. So what they did was they informed financial districts around Europe to start copying, emulating, maybe is better, the type of transactions, the type of mechanisms and financial tools that are used within the City of London. So this was not a plan of the EU until Brexit. Or let me correct myself a little bit here. It was not driven, it wasn't pushed as hard until Brexit came along. So the Brexiteers voted and pushed for the ending of the power of the City of London. And now, in some way, they believe that they can make London great again.
In the world, and I feel that it's slipping to some extent as a result of the actions of the European Union.
So it's the European Union's fault that you people voted for Brexit. Okay.
But the EU, remember, is all about protectionism. It is not about free trade.
Really? It's not about free trade. It's not about trade. It's all about protectionism. Really? Can you explain? I'd love to see the data behind that. I'd love to see some evidence to support that. Because just last year, the EU signed a massive trade deal with Japan. So if they're just about protectionism, why would they sign trade deals? They're looking to sign a trade deal with Australia. They're looking to sign a trade deal with the United States. So if you're saying that they're just about protectionism, then why would they be doing trade deals?
I was stunned, when I watched a TV show the other day, and it was a drama about what happened during Queen Victoria's reign vis-a-vis the repeal of the Corn Laws and Robert Peel as Prime Minister. And of course, the Corn Laws were all about removal of trade tariffs, just as leaving the European Union is about getting out of Fortress Europe. But of course, it was presented in a rather different way, saying that the Corn Laws was all about trading with Europe, and therefore it would be similar to the EU. Well, load of old rubbish.
I don't understand what he's talking about here. But let's move on.
But we don't want to be shackled to this protectionist bloc. We want to be free to do our own thing. And I think that the opportunity that the European Union is going to give us by raising taxes and raising tariffs in its own zone will allow us to trade more easily throughout the world, because suddenly there'll be a huge
What?
advantage to coming to the United Kingdom, as I say, which didn't exist in the past. And that is the key thing about Brexit. And I said in a video yesterday, and not many of you watched it, it has to be said, about banning fur in the United Kingdom when we leave the transition period. I'm not particularly in favour of making fur illegal in Britain. But the point is this: Brexit was never about one individual policy. Pro-Europeans used to say, well, when you leave the EU, what are you going to do about this? The answer is British people will be able to make their own decisions. Now, it may well be that we want to...
No, not British people. Politicians will make the decisions, or their owners will make the decisions. Not people. You got that wrong. It's not the people that will make the decisions. You don't make the decision. Your neighbor next door doesn't make the decision. It will be the politicians who will decide, and they will tell you via the media what they want you to believe. Stop saying that the people will decide.
Increase taxes on tech giants as well. I hope we don't, but that will be our choice.
So you don't want tech giants to pay more in taxes. So where Facebook paid just £28 million in taxes last year. For you, that's too much. They should pay zero. Do you understand that many people are not very happy with the likes of Google or Facebook or these tech companies not paying their fair share in taxes? You know, why is it okay for Facebook to get away with paying almost nothing in tax, while it's not okay for the people, you know, for example, your local car mechanic or the plumber who comes to your house to fix your sink, or the company that most people work for? How come they're not able to get away with paying almost nothing in tax? Why do they have to take the burden, and Facebook or Google or whoever don't have to take the burden? How is that acceptable to people? For Andre, that is okay. He's happy with for Facebook or whoever to not pay any taxes. You know, as I said here, as it says here, last year they paid only £28 million in tax. And for Andre, that's too much. He wants them to pay almost zero. Why is that okay with him? I would love to know why it's okay for Facebook not to pay anything, but it's not okay for the local small business down the street who has a staff of maybe 10 or 15 people. They're not allowed to get away with paying almost nothing in tax
when we get out of this transition period. But you know why the European Union are so frightened, because they are worried about what they call Singapore-on-Thames. They know that the first thing we will do is drop regulation and drop tax to be more competitive around the world. They actually...
Okay, so the problem with this idea of Singapore on the Thames is, what if this is what they want to basically turn the UK into a tax haven. Now, the problem with turning the UK into a tax haven is that the UK is a large country. I was going to say company, a large country. You can't run a large country as a tax haven. Tax havens don't produce anything. They're places to hide money, basically. So you want to turn the UK into a country where you hide money. Now, how's that going to help ordinary people? If the taxes are almost zero, how are you going to pay for healthcare? How are you going to pay for police? How are you going to pay for infrastructure? How are you going to pay for any of these things? Now, let's say even if it was possible to turn the UK into a tax haven, the problem at the moment is that the UK has a public debt of £2 trillion. Because of the pandemic, Rishi Sunak has run up the debt. So what are you going to do if turning yourself into a tax haven isn't going to sort out that problem? But there's also another problem.
Actually wanted Britain to remain in the EU, not because actually they're empire building, though that is part of it. The main reason is because they know with a wealth...
Sorry, but the irony of this guy complaining about empires. The EU is not an empire. The UK used to be an empire. Britain used to be an empire. It's not an empire anymore. The Brexiteers would like to see it as an empire again, but he has a problem with empires.
Wealthy and powerful country in Europe that is outside the EU, it makes it harder for them to tax and regulate their population out of existence. But there isn't just one powerful country outside the EU in Europe. There are now effectively two, because people forget how important Switzerland is, one of the world's biggest financial sectors, one of the biggest banking sectors, and one of the world's biggest manufacturing sectors. This is going to be the future. Trading with free nations and ignoring the EU's desire to destroy...
Okay, so this idea of moving all these tech companies to the UK after Brexit. Now, I think many of them, if they were to leave the EU, they would move maybe to the United States again. But let's say, for example, if it's true that these companies will move to the UK. The problem is, what do they trade in? They trade in data. And the European Union have said that, and I uploaded a video about this recently, that if the UK are not willing to secure data if they're not willing to ensure that the data of European Union citizens is not sold off to third parties or other countries, then the UK will not be able to access this data. There will be restrictions on this data. So the idea of inviting these companies in order for them to allow them to operate without regulations, I think is absurd. But you have to look at why are these companies in the likes of Ireland or Luxembourg at the moment? Because they're members of the European Union. That's why. Yes, they have low tax rates, and yes, they would not like to have those taxes increased. But if they see that it's better for them to operate within the European Union, then they're going to do that. They're going to pay those extra taxes. If they leave the European Union, there will be restrictions on their movement of data. They don't want that. They would prefer to pay extra and have the free movement of data instead of having less data freedom and earning less, because they would have greater restrictions on their ability to make profits. But I'm not an expert in this field, but I'm just using the information that I have looked at myself. Let me know in the comments section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?